bait of the day, the Lure Jensen Nipididi. Probably my favorite prop baits of all. These things are really awesome. And that's part of the discussion we're going to have today. Not necessarily top water, but just fishing in general. Ready to run a gun? It's time for blast off. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome back to Bassin 101. Todd here with you. Simplify your fishing number 22. Woo! This has been a long series, ain't it? But I tell you, it has a lot of topics in it. A lot of different kind of things people don't think about every day. And I'm just trying to help you guys out to simplify things that you're doing, as well as myself. You know, it's been probably 6 months since I did my last one. And I've learned a lot in those 6 months about myself, the things I prefer to fish, kind of waters. So a lot of things you have to take into consideration. I kind of wanted to use this as a beginning of the year kind of recap and kind of give you some other insights of what to think of, because I'm still putting my stuff together. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. But you know, I have my rods and reels pretty much figured out. It's just a matter of the kind of tackle, and like the title says, be honest with myself. Yeah, there's certain questions you need to ask yourself, and I always tell this guys, tell this to you guys all the time. Listen to yourself. Pay attention to how you fish. You know, don't force yourself to do something that because everybody else is buying it or everybody else is doing it doesn't mean you have to do it too. You know, the other day in the mail I got my very first Bass Pro Shops Master Catalog out of the blue. I ain't had one in 25 years. And you know, it just tells you how much I deal with them a lot of times. But you know, I thumbed through it, and there was really nothing in there that made me go, wow. And I'm actually thankful for that, because I'm sure a lot of you guys have got it and be like, oh, I want this and this. You know, I didn't feel like that. I was kind of like, yeah, cool, so what? Kirby, I tell you what, this boy right here, King Kirby, leave it to a Savannah to want to get in the shot. All right, you done said your highs. Later, dude. Okay. Boy's got a photo bomb, doesn't he? But, you know, I got a few subjects I want to run across you real quick. I don't want to take too much time on this thing. Just want to run some questions that you might not have thought of yourself. And it's definitely questions I have been asking myself. One, what do you really use? I mean, if you really think about it, if you look at the wall, you got all your fishing rods out there, you got shelves and shelves of reels, different kinds of lines out there, lures. You know, what do you really use? And I can remember, I'll pass this little tip on to you. I can remember back when I was fishing tournaments all the time, and there he's bombing again. And I came across, boy, you can't lay here while I'm doing this. One of the things I learned when I was tournament fishing is, you know, if I had 3 casting rods and 1 spinning rod, I'd be okay with that. And I'm talking as far as having a boat. I was also a non-boater and, you know, co-fisherman. And so you can't, especially if you're a non-boater, you can't show up on a guy's boat with 10 rods and reels and a bunch of tackle. It ain't going to happen because you got the back of the boat. So it ain't going to happen. So, you know, I kind of came up with, well, 3 casting rods and 1 spinning. And ironically, putting my stuff together, that's pretty much what it's boiled down to for me. 3 different casting outfits and a spinning outfit. It's kind of funny how that comes around almost over 20 years later, back to square one where I was pretty much set at. So that's something you have to consider. What do you really use? Another, what types of lures do you use most often? You know, some guys are soft plastic dudes, some guys are crankbait guys, some guys are swim bait guys, some dudes are spinner baits. You know, what is your strong point? Is it jigs? Grubs? You know, doesn't really matter. What about some of these new techniques that are out there? Are you more of an Alabama rig guy? You know, about me personally, I don't throw chandeliers. But everybody has their own thing. But that's something you have to consider yourself. What lures do you fish most often? What are your strong points? And do you pack for that? You know, so that's something that you need to consider. Another one, and I did a video on this, do you prefer to have just a handful of lures and a lot of colors to choose from, or do you prefer to have say a lot of lures with just 1 or 2 colors of each, so you've got more variety? Everybody's going to be different on that. I go both ways. A lot of it, I do kind of like doing the one particular lure and having a lot of colors to go with it. I do prefer that on some things. Other things, I like just one straight color. One of the things I've noticed myself as I'm trying to put my plastic worms together, I've noticed I'm more of a blue fleck guy. So the thing I'm kind of wrestling myself with is, do I stick with one particular worm like the Mr. Twister Phenom and have that box I had with all those colors in it, or do I stick with a color I've caught more fish off of than anything else and stick with a few different styles, because those different styles can be used in different situations? So that's something to consider. Another one is, what type of water do you usually fish? Some people fish rivers, they fish reservoirs. Some guys are just pond fishermen. Some guys like me are just river fishermen or very small water type fishermen. It's trolling motor only. But the reservoirs, and an important thing is too, what's the deepest water you fish? I mean, everybody fishes shallow, but what's the deepest water you fish? For me, if I'm hitting a 15-foot hole in that river, I'm doing pretty good. There is some deep water there, but I'd say 15's the max, and especially in 1 or 2 particular areas. So I really don't need anything that runs super deep. That's something to take into consideration. And another, how do you store tackle? Do you use tackle wraps? Tackle boxes? Do you use the Plano boxes? The 3700, 3600s, 3500s? Do you prefer like bait boxes? Some guys like to have that for crankbaits and things like that. Do you keep them in a paper bag? Everybody's different on how they store stuff. That's why there's multitudes of storage options out there on the market. Everybody's different. What you have to consider, which is something I've been considering here lately too, is I fish mostly out of a kayak, and I don't like turning around getting to things. So I prefer to have it all in front of me. So having a big box or something like that is just out of the question. It's not going to happen. So I'm having to downsize my tackle and trying to figure out the best way to work it. So that's something you have to consider too. Do you have a boat that you can fish out of? A John boat? If you have a John boat, now you're looking at transporting tackle in and out of the boat, so you might want a tackle box. If you have a bass boat, you got lockable lockers. canoes, you're still taking your stuff out. Unless you have a garage, you can just put the stuff in and leave it there. That's a different story. So that's something else to consider. Another, is it bad to be a habitual fisherman? Now, what do I mean by habitual fisherman? If you're the kind of guy that only throws spinner baits and nothing else, that's your habit. You are in a, I wouldn't say a rut, but you're in, I would say a mechanical state. Let's put it that way. Mechanical state's that's probably the best way to put it. Or what if you're just a crankbait guy? You go out there and just throw crankbaits all the time. That's your habit. What if you hit the same spots all the time? Out of habit. Is that a bad thing? I really don't see how it could be a bad thing. I mean, are you limiting to what you can learn or something? Well, I would say so. But there's drawbacks and advantages to everything. I mean, whether you're not habitual or whether you are habitual. I kind of like to have the same handful of lures and just kind of vary around that. You can do that. That's not an issue. But everybody's going to be a little bit different. But you need to ask yourself: is it okay? By being habitual, are you still catching fish? So that's something to take into consideration. And last but not least, and I did a video on this, should you rely on crutch baits? Everybody has a crutch bait. I've discussed this before. Crutch bait is a bait that if you go to it, you're going to catch fish, especially in prop baits. If I throw a prop bait, that's what I'm throwing right there. If I'm throwing a rear prop bait, I like a Dalton Special because it tends to kind of walk a little bit. Yeah, I think you should rely on crutch baits. I still say if I had one technique to throw from now on, give me a slider head. And here recently I've been experimenting with the missile baits bomb shot. I actually like that over a slider worm. I can't believe I'm actually saying that, but I do. I like them over a slider worm. They're a little bit lighter, so they're a little harder to cast, but that's just something you have to deal with. And I have said before that I've never caught any other fish off of anything but that slider worm itself. Well, I'll take that back because I have now caught them on the bomb shot. But that's my crutch bait. Should I rely on that crutch bait? Sure. Give me a half hour, 45 minutes on the water to figure out what's going on. If I think it's going to be a slow day, everything's going up and that slider worm's coming out. So crutch is okay. Should you just go out and just throw nothing but your crutch bait? Sure. I don't see anything wrong with that. It would definitely be a whole lot less tackle you're carrying around with you. That's for sure. But that's something to think of. I just wanted to throw these by you guys. I didn't want this video to be too long. I just wanted to kind of recap. But like I said, it's been about 6 months since I've done one of these. And I just wanted to throw some ideas by you that I've been telling myself and trying to stick with them as well, because I'm still trying to put all this stuff together. So anyway, so until next time, guys, may the Father bless you and keep you in Yeshua's name. And as always, fish on. Kirby bomb again.